five-star coach. What does that mean to you?
Nothing. Really happy, for our staff. I think it'll be a great experience for our family, but it's really cool, that since this all started, that our staff has really been able to come together, work hard together, and just kind of figure it out. So really happy for them, and it just says a lot about our team. We've been able to sustain a level of play for a long period of time, and we just have to continue that. So blessed and happy for our families to be able to, have that opportunity.
How do you feel about the new rules that the teams are going to be picked right before the game?
I don't care.
How do you coach that?
You don't?
Stand there and look pretty?
Yeah, I don't care about those.
When did you find out?
Yesterday at like 9:30 when Philly lost.
Did you know? Were you aware that if Philly lost, you would be the coach?
Yeah, Olive texted me and told me that.
And said, you responded, "I don't care."
I was just like, whatever. I was at dinner. I was at dinner with my wife and a few friends. So I had more important things going on at the time.
What do the players think about it? It seemed like on social media, a few of them were posting about it.
Like I said, it's more of a testament to the players and to the staff. The staff being as hard as they work on scouting and preparation and the relationships that they build with the players. So it's a testament to the staff, and then the players have to play the games and they have to win. And so I'm blessed that we have guys that work at it, and I appreciate their support for our staff and for our organization. But if they don't win the games and play as hard as they play, we're not in this situation. So thank you to both of them.
Joe, the offense has taken a little bit of a step backwards
Less
recently.
threes. Shoot less threes.
So is that just why is it that you're shooting less threes?
Well, first it starts with our spacing, and so we can't get the threes that we want because we're not fighting for our spacing. When we do get to our spacing early in the shot clock and the first action doesn't work, we don't fight for our spacing in the last 12 seconds of the shot clock. And then so when you're not spaced in the last 12 seconds, defenses are naturally better, and then there's less likely to find the 2-on-1, and you don't get the shot that you want. And then we're turning the ball over, which is allowing teams to get out and transition. And so it's a combination of spacing, early offense, late offense, and then it's a combination of making sure we make the right read when we have the ball.
Is that a function of just you've added Rob to the mix and guys have been out, or is that something that it should be happening regardless of who is on the floor?
Yeah, I think it should be happening regardless, but I understand. But people in and out of the lineups in different lineups, different personnel, that confusion's going to happen, especially when there's cross matches and stuff like that. And so there is a level of I get it, but at the same time, it's spacing is the one detail. It's the one constant. It's something you can control regardless of the circumstances, and we just have to do a great job of not taking something as small as spacing for granted throughout the entire year.
So obviously you start the year with a 5-out lineup that everyone can shoot threes, and when you factor in that Rob return, fighting for spacing like you talk about, like how does that group go about doing that when Rob isn't a guy who shoots threes?
Yeah, just because you can't shoot threes doesn't mean you can't space. I think we've had some stuff where Rob and Allen both space. It all depends on what your matchup is, who's guarding you, and in the Laker game, when at the end of the game Davis was on Al, we did a great job spacing him in the strong side corner and above the break so that he wasn't the rim protector. And so it's not a matter of if you can't shoot or not. It's a matter of who's guarding you and where do we want him so that we can generate, a trigger for our offense and a trigger for our 2-on-1.
And you said before last game the key for getting Jason's minutes down was not going to overtime. You do go to overtime in that game. I think he's at 38 per game this month. Is it concern you at all, the amount that you have to use him, and is there any kind of plan to scale that back as the second half goes on?
Don't play overtime games.
Jason's rebounding numbers over the last 5 games. What are you seeing out of that?
Rebounding.
Is there like an extra effort, extra emphasis on there?
There's a little bit, but he's, he has the ability to do that, and so it's important that you just don't ask him to do things on the offensive end as far as his talent, his ability to score. And so, when him and Jalen and all of our guys are locked into having an effect on the game in other areas, it really helps us. And so rebounding is one of them.
Back to Tatum's minutes. One of the things Brad said after the finals was that he thought all the minutes you guys had to play to get up to that point mattered in that moment. Why have you not cut down his minutes? I know you said the overtime games and stuff like that, but
maybe when you go through something and then you learn how to navigate that, you're better at it when you come back.
So what do you think helped with the navigation? What do you think you learned from that, he learned from that?
Yeah, I think just his natural approach to how do you sustain a level of energy and a level of, healthiness throughout the entire season. And so I trust how he takes care of his body. I trust the people around him, and I trust everything that he does. And will there be moments where we have to cut his minutes down? Yes, absolutely. I'm not here in favor of playing guys until they can't play anymore. At the same time, I trust his work ethic, and I trust the people around him to think that he took what he learned from the finals and was able to apply that in his summer workouts, in his preseason workouts, and in his daily approach to how he takes care of himself.
That being said, how nice were these 3 days off, and how are you using them?
I went to dinner, hung out with my kids, got to go to their basketball games, and then we get to practice.
Team-wise, I mean, did you tell everyone to take that first day off and then kind of slowly come back?
I just told them I'll see you on Tuesday.
Marcus and Rob.
Getting better. Rob just continued to, work on his ankle. We'll see how he goes. And then, like we said, with Smart, it's just a matter of, the swelling at his ankle and then his range of motion. And so just continuing to get better at that.
Any chance Rob could go tomorrow?
There's always a chance.
Sam has, talk about three-pointers. Sam was one of the guys early on that was hitting a lot of them, and that's since cooled off. What do you need to do to try to get him back on track? And is that affecting the other things that he's doing on the floor that can keep him on the floor to get him those opportunities?
Yeah, I think our early offense creativity, our early offense unpredictability allowed for more of that, especially early in the shot clock. And so we got to do a better job of recognizing the cross match and getting into a quick trigger in the first 6 to 8 seconds, which will allow that unpredictability in open shots, which is something that really helped him. When shots started to fall, yes, I think that affected other areas of game, and I think a huge area of growth in his last couple outings is that wasn't affected. And so I think he's done a good job of understanding, especially young players in general, their value doesn't come from their shot making. It comes from their effort, it comes from their individual defense and their team defense, and I think the shot making is what kind of separates you after that.
Over the course of the season, you're kind of building up all your different reads on offense, and then guys start to get kind of comfortable with what they like, what they don't like. How do you, I guess, over the course of the year, kind of break some of the bad habits and focus on the good habits?
Yeah, I think you're constantly naturally just, tug of war with those. I think habits are something that, they're constantly ingrained, and then there's always moments of when, bad habits can creep in. So I think it's just a matter of constantly trying to coach it, constantly trying to keep the main things, and then just fighting for those throughout, knowing that, they're going to slip eventually, but it's a matter of how quickly can we just get back to those habits that, really help us.
Is there like a bad habit you guys had earlier this year you feel like you've squashed out?
I think shot selection. I think it's, like I said, waned a little bit, but not because we're trying to take bad shots. It's a microcosm of the other things that are happening. And so I really like our shot selection. And the habit that we got to get back to is our spacing.
How do you generally address, complacency throughout a course of a very long season? You mentioned kind of fighting through some things and fighting for better spacing. How do you generally kind of address that?
Just make it a priority. I think you are what you emphasize, you are what you prioritize. And so there's constantly small things throughout the season that you're going to change and say, hey, let's work on this the next 5 to 10 games. But I think there's 2 or 3 things on each side of the ball that you got to work for every single day.
We've seen Jalen come a long way with the mid-range shot. You said that you will embrace that shot, if a guy's good at it like him. Does his kind of, it's kind of like a line drive shot almost from mid-range, gets way up. Does that impact your three-point shot at all, possibly? Kind of that approach he takes from mid-range with the high release?
Well, 2 things. One, I sucked at shooting, so I can give no one advice on what their arc is or shooting from anywhere on the floor. I had a hard time shooting on myself. And for Jalen, you're right, at one point when I looked, he was 58% from 2, which is, a really good percentage and a high points per shot. And so I think that shot is important, especially at the end of games. In playoff time, you have to be able to get to your spot and do it. So that shot's important. He's done a good job of differentiating when to take it and when to take his open threes. And I will never tell him how to shoot the ball because I don't know how to.
You started Malcolm in the second half. Is there a consideration when you guys are shorthanded to doing that either at the beginning of the game or the second half going forward?
It was more of a matchup because they didn't start Davis in the beginning of the game, and then so they ended. But then we wanted to get to a certain matchup, but then they started him in the second, and so it was just a matter of us trying to adapt to the Lakers sub pattern and kind of figure out what their substitutions were for the remainder of the second half.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That was fun.